So yes, your story, your passion, all about what Aastha Gaur.
Okay, that's a really broad question. I'll try to answer it quickly. So my story is that, so I went to, so I grew up in Ghaziabad, which is, if some of you might not know, that's like close to Delhi. It's an NCR in India. And I grew up thinking that I wanted to be, I found out about design in maybe like 10th grade or so. And that's when I really liked the idea of getting into this. UX design wasn't a thing back then, like web design even wasn't a thing back then. This is like a long, long time ago. So I found out about something called product design, which I call that industrial design now because people can confuse that with the other digital product design. And I found out that there was a course that I could do and get a bachelor's in design from NIFT in Bangalore, which is a fashion design school, but they do have this industrial design program just in Bangalore. So I did that. And while I was doing that, I was interning at Ford, and I was looking at this robotic arm that was flipping the switch on and off. I was designing combination lever switches, so like the indicator switch and the wiper switch in a car. And I had designed something that the robotic arm was just going on, off, on, off, on, off, like thousands of times, right? And I was just looking at it, and that's when I decided that I didn't want to do this. And then I found out something about graphic design, and I was like, oh, this sounds better, because it doesn't have to, like, it's not so dependent on just the hardware constraints. When you add one thing and the weight of the car increases and the robotic arm has to flip it thousands of times to test its durability over like decades, right? There was just something about that seemed too constricting to me. So I moved to LA to get my master's in graphic design. And I was working as a graphic designer, where I realized that I was working with nonprofits, basically, only with nonprofits, doing graphic design for them in a small design firm. And then I realized that no matter how well we did, ultimately what nonprofits needed was money, and money came in through donations, and all their websites were really, really bad. So I pitched to my my boss, the owner of the company, that we start redesigning their websites, and none of us knew how to do that. But he was like, you know what, if you want to give it a try, give it a try. So I found out that I could really combine my skills from my industrial design education and then my graphic design education. And by this time, UX design still wasn't a thing, but web design was. So I could really just combine these skills and start redoing their web presence and online presence. And I think the iPhone had just come out, like this is about that time. And their website started to work, like it started bringing in way more donations than they were getting earlier. So we started to see returns. And that's when I started educating myself in the UX design field. UX was starting to become a thing, still not called UX, but at least that discipline. Started to educate myself, started to build a team, because I was doing everything back then for one client. So we started to build a team so we could scale it to multiple clients and help multiple nonprofits. And I did that for about like 3 to 4 years. And at one point I realized that, so I was leading the UX team there, and I realized that I couldn't really grow anymore at that point, because I was at the top in that company, right? And I thought I was way too early in my career to be at the top anywhere. So that's when I switched to Yahoo. For a little bit, I did a project at Yahoo. It was super interesting. I designed a second screen experience for election night between Obama and Romney. So that was the election year that I was designing for. But of course, this was like any year before the actual election. So I did that project, finished that project. Then I moved to Google, and I was the first UX hire at Google in Los Angeles. And then since then, I've been at Google. It's been about 8 years now, and I've built a team down in Los Angeles, worked on enterprise products, worked on some consumer products, and now recently I switched to the Google support team, and I've been there for about 3 years or so, also continuing to lead a team, build a team. We're building a team down in Hyderabad. That's why I will be honest, that's why I've been selfishly engaged in a lot of community events in India.
Yeah. I saw one.
Yeah,
I saw one. I think you did last week or so. I saw that post somewhere.
Yeah, because I realized when I started hiring in India that I actually didn't have a large design network in India, and that's not great, right? That's not great ever, but that's especially not great when I'm trying to build a team of 30 people or so over the next 2 to 3 years. So So here I am.
Yeah, no, sure. Like what we also did is when the folks were like registering online, we had asked them that if you can drop in few of the questions. So, and I have gone through all 80 of them, and I have picked few of them for each slide. So, one is what qualities I'll need to join a Google and that comes from Hitika Jain.
Yes. So what qualities are needed? So we actually have this rubric that we rate people against, and I don't think any of this is confidential. Even if it is, that's fine. The first thing is for UX, you definitely need to have really strong user focus. So what that means is that you're designing for the user in mind, not just for yourself. It means acknowledging that you are not the user, and even if you are, you're maybe one of the users, right? So you might use Gmail, but then there are many other people who use Gmail. So if we only design for ourselves, we probably won't build a product that can scale at Google scale. So like I said, I work on support, right? And support.google.com is the second most visited web page at Google after google.com. So that's basically the whole world is on there. So you need to have that really, really strong user focus, and that needs to show in your in your portfolio, in your answers, if you do a design exercise, in your interviews, one-on-one interviews, in your portfolio presentation, just all of that, right? So user focus is a big one. Second, we place a lot of weight on leadership, and I know we're going to talk about that, but we do want to see that this person who we are hiring, they can deal with ambiguity, they can take nothing and make something out of it, they can be self-led. And then we have a pretty big vertical for Googliness, which means being able to work collaboratively, just being nice when you're working with people. Google is very relationship based, a lot more than other companies. So what that means is we're not very hierarchical, right? So my manager or my boss just cannot tell me what to do. He has to convince me, which means that you have to have like deep relationships with people to really convince and influence up, down, horizontally. So you need to be just a nice, pleasant person to work with, who can, like, Google is not a place where the brilliant asshole can succeed, for sure. And I've seen many of those people burn out. So we try to screen that out during hiring.
Yeah, sure. So I have like many of the questions, but I'll refrain asking mine because I have many of those from the audience. So the second one is, what are the most influential books that have shaped your thinking about design? That has come from Sri Harsha.
That's a really good question. The answer here might be not that many books on design itself, but I'll try to answer that. So I don't know if education has changed in India since then, because I went to school a long time ago in India. And also I know that NID might be completely different because that's the big school where you do industrial design, right? But in NIFT, it was not very theoretical. Like, we barely read any books on design. It was very much hands-on. You did everything. In fact, they follow the Bauhaus philosophy of design, where in the first year you study everything. So I studied sewing, I studied basically all the different design disciplines like fashion design, industrial design, digital design, textile design. In the first year, everyone learns everything, a little bit of everything. And then second, third, fourth year, you take your specialization and then learn about that. So I did not know a lot about theory. Then when I came here for my master's, I realized it was all about theory. Like, our first exercise was the 3 designers, graphic designers who have inspired you from like the 60s or something. And I was like, I don't even, like, there were graphic designers in the 60s. Like, I don't even know anything about this. So I spent a long time like really reading books about design. Exactly. Download a lot of books. And I think the most influential one is actually something that is very, very tactical, but it is the Elements of Typographic Style. It is one of the best books that I have read. It's about typography, but it really teaches so much about thinking. It teaches so much about systems. It really taught me how to think about stuff. So that was one. Since then, I have read a lot of books more on leadership. And I think my favorite one that I recommend to everyone is Leaders Eat Last. That's a really good book on the philosophy of leadership, and I dive a lot with that. I will recommend a third one that was life-changing to me. The Design of Everyday Things is a good book, indeed, Ashta. Thank you for recommending that. A third one that I really like is The Obstacle is the Way. that is not about design. That's really more about it's Stoic philosophy. So it's more about how you think. But as designers, we run into a lot of obstacles, and just reading that book taught me how to think as a designer in a really interesting way. So I would definitely recommend that to designers.
Cool. I have one trivia for you, Aastha.
Yeah.
It appears now. And why 2nd April 2018 is important for you?
Say that again, sorry.
It is, I think it's on the slide. Why 2nd April 2018 is important for you?
2nd April 2018.
See, I had to do so much of research on you to get this question.
What is the reference? What am I missing?
Can you recall it now if I show you something?
Yes.
Did I do something wrong?
Okay. The slides are not changing, I guess. It's still slide 1.
No, it is changing. No, so slide 1, but then you see some picture over there?
It's changing.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Okay, can you recall now?
Yes, it was it 2018? 2017?
So I picked it because I thought this is the day that you should recall, and this is what it is. So yeah.
Yes. So it's not 2018. The year should be 2011. So I have a tattoo right here with the date, so I can check at any point what the date is. That's the day India won the World Cup. So
and your message says something else too. Also known as the day I knew my husband, who is then friend, and so I had to go deep and find what is one trivia that you should struggle. And I know it's like a couple of years old, so that's why it was a problem.
It's totally fine. I can tell you the story quickly. I was here when the World Cup happened, and I was up all night. So the next day I went to a tattoo parlor to get the date tattooed on me, 2011. I tweeted that on 2018, but the World Cup happened year, right? So that's basically why I was confused about the year. But yes, the tattoo artist refused to do a tattoo on me because he said, "You've been up all night. You were not in the right mind. Sleep and come back." So I went and took a nap in my car for 5 hours and came back and got the tattoo done. Cool. No regrets. I still love it.
No. Yeah. So what the hell is leadership? And that's a good question. And we thought, okay, we will talk about it in detail. But I also did some research. There is around 52.2 million titles on LinkedIn as on today, 4:03 p.m. So let's talk on this topic.
Sure. Titles are fuzzy, right? You can make them whatever you want them to be. There was this incident that happened where all of us at Google, we wanted to change our titles to something funny, just as an internal thing, and we just did it. So I don't think anyone noticed, but on LinkedIn, it was just banana pants UXer, whatever, right? Some random title. So it really doesn't matter. I do know that titles matter when you're hiring, right? Yes, that's why people change their titles on LinkedIn. Leadership is really about getting more out of situations, people, or projects than initially anyone would have thought possible, right? So when you can take 2 and 2 and make it 5, when you can take individual parts and make the sum way more than, or make the whole way more than the sum of its parts, that's really leadership. So an early example of this, and I spoke about this somewhere else too, an early example of this is, so I went to Delhi Public School in Ghaziabad, and we, back in the day, it was the men had to wear the leather shoes, right, for a uniform, and the women had to wear those strap leather shoes, the ballerina shoes with the strap. Some of you might have seen it in your school uniforms, if anyone remembers or went to India, school in India. So we worked the canvas shoes. We actually didn't even have canvas shoes. We literally have leather shoes with a strap on top, the little ballerina shoes. So we worked to get those changed so everyone could wear just sneakers, black sneakers. And I'm still surprised that we got it through. That to me was leadership, right? Being able to, when I say we, it was literally me and another student who started with that idea, and we went class to class. We did surveys. We asked people what they wanted to do. We presented this whole data to our principals and the board to convince them that women should be able to wear the same shoes as guys, and all of us should be able to wear sneakers because that's just healthier for us than wearing leather shoes every day. And that was a huge deal getting that passed, right? So that no titles there, no one like gave anyone the title of leader or anything, but just being able to get this thing done collectively that one person probably wouldn't have been able to do. That to me is leadership.
Sure. There is one question that has come on the same line, and this is, how would you ensure that you get a buy-in from your stakeholders? That comes from Amit Srivastava.
How do I get buy-in from stakeholders? That's a good question, and I can answer that. But if Amit is here, is there a particular situation in which you were thinking about this, like buy-in on projects? Buy-in on what?
Amit Srivastava, if you are here, it's okay. You can take one of the options.
Sure. Okay, so you need buy-in for a lot of things from your stakeholders. You need buy-in from the design work. For me, I need buy-in on headcount. I need buy-in on staffing. I need buy-in on how to organize my team, how to staff my team. Because like I said, Google is very relationship-based, right? So my partners cannot do this and I cannot do this. No one really can make unilateral decisions. We work together. I think the key thing is you need to create relationships with those partners, and you need to have the relationships before you need buy-in. If someone trusts you, it's just becomes so much easier from there. When I say relationships, not just like surface level relationships, but really learn about them. At any point, you should know what are their goals, what are their hopes, what are their dreams, their fears. Understand all of that really, really well. And then whenever you do something, align it with their goals too. So if their goal is, let's just say if the PM's goal is to increase monthly active users by a certain number, you should know that number really, really well. And when you're presenting your design should speak to how you're going to help them towards that goal. And if you do that, there is no problem in getting buy-in. The mistake that I've seen a lot of designers make is make their design user-focused only. In most cases, even the best user-focused things have a purpose beyond that. It might be a higher purpose, it might be a business purpose, it might be some sort of something that goes beyond this is what the user needs and wants. And incorporating that in our argument gets us stakeholder buy-in faster.
Yeah, and how difficult is it in Google? Because we have seen we go through the same problem everywhere. How easy or difficult to get the buy-in from the stakeholders in Google?
I think it's probably easier. I don't know, maybe it's about the same. I mean, because honestly, I haven't really had stakeholders outside of Google. Because at the smaller company where I was working at, Distinct, we had clients, and that was very, very different because they were paying clients. At Yahoo, it was very different because it was a short-term project for me. I was there for about like 6 or 8 months or so. But at Google, I would say it's hard because there is no hierarchy, right? So it's not like it's not like I can just escalate to my manager and he'll make it happen magically. That's not a thing. I have to convince, again, up, down, horizontally, everyone. So that part is hard. The part that is easy is that I feel like everyone that I work with, they're just brilliant people who have only the best intentions. So no one really wants to do the wrong thing. Everyone wants to do the right thing. So given that fact, it's not that hard to convince people or get buy-in from people. Again, you just need to know what their goals are and align what you're doing with those goals.
Sure. So the entire audience that we have, it like ranges from 1 year to 25 years of experience. And now everywhere we have seen, the next question is about that mantras and your approach towards design leadership, if it has to be one. And when I Googled, you find first link says 13, then 5, then 6, then 10. And I went inside until first, second, third, fourth, fifth page. The only link which says was 23 mantra, and I have all of them. But I believe, be yourself, that the number of leadership style is limitless because there is no hard and fast one rule to this. So what is one mantra that you would like to give to anyone?
I would say it goes on the book, it goes with the book that I was talking about earlier, The Leaders Eat Last. Really the point there is that you feed your team before you feed yourself, right? Another way to say that, which I completely believe in, is putting people first. So design and stakeholder buy-in and all of it comes down to people first. Because the people you lead, put them first, understand them as people, invest in them as people, and the right things will happen. Your stakeholders, understand them as people, not as just a product manager, not as just an engineer. If you are a UX and if you're a product manager, same for the other way around. And just put people first and everything else follows.
So in the Google, and like that has come from one of the rethinker, Alpita Ballav, and he says, what are the current priorities you have from a leadership perspective in Google?
My current priorities. It's a very broad question, many ways to answer it. I will say, and this has to happen, right? If I believe that the mantra is people first, I would say my current priority is really, I think about it as making myself obsolete. So what that means is, how do I grow leads on my team so that if I were to go out, let's just say for a month or 3 months, or maybe even move to another team, that they would all flourish and not need me. So that's my first priority, growing leads on the team. And how I make that happen is by, one, I hire people who might threaten me, and I'm doing air quotes because I don't really get threatened. But the idea is that I should, if anyone here is hiring, hire people who are very, very close to you in where you are in your career, because you want those people to be ready to replace you at a moment's notice, right? And secondly, in addition to hiring, it's about growing people on the team so I can make myself obsolete.
Yep, and I think in a nutshell, what you're saying is creating many more leaders within your team.
Yes, that's right.
Cool. Let's move to the next one. Does title matters? How about being a designer without a title? And I did some research, and this is a known problem to everyone. Yes. And by the way, all of them are exclusive, and I could have found 100 more, but the slide has only that much of space. So
so I'll give you a philosophical answer and I'll give you a practical answer, right? I don't think title matters, because when I was hired at Google, actually it's really interesting. My title at Yahoo was UI designer, even though I was doing both. And then at Google, I was hired as interaction designer. UX designer, that then changed to interaction designer when we tried to just reconcile our titles at Google. So it doesn't matter. I've hired all kinds of titles of people, and they do the same job. It really doesn't matter. What I would recommend is, especially for UXers, put the word UX in your title somewhere on LinkedIn, because that's typically what people will search for, like recruiters will search for. Yes, now they also know to search for UI artist and, I don't know, product designer, interaction designer, experience designer. But typically I have seen that UX is the keyword. So even if it's not in your title, put it in your description somewhere. So that's the practical answer, that put the word UX somewhere, if not in your title.
Being smart, because that's where the game is played. So you need to have it there. The one question has come on the same line: how to get started with UX or product design without a design degree? What all resources, roadmap is suggested? From Smriti Jha. I don't know whether she is there or not on the call, but it came from Smriti Jha.
Yeah, I can answer that. So. And I also know there's a lot of questions coming in on chat, so I don't know if we should prioritize that, Mayur, or how you want to do that. But I will answer the question that you just asked me, which was, could you remind me?
How to get started with a UX product design without a design degree? Without a design degree.
That's a great question. So I could say I fall somewhere in the middle of that, right? Like, I do have a design degree, but I didn't have a UX design degree, and back then there was no UX design degree, so maybe it was easier for me. But I think you do a lot of self-education. There are so many resources out there. Unfortunately, there is no one resource that I recommend over others, because I don't have personal experience. And I have seen students using different resources and having equal results. So there's no one place that I could say, do this course and you will be fine. The biggest recommendation from me is do the work a lot, right? So if you can find clients, amazing. If you cannot find clients, then go look for design exercises online. Like, Google gives take-home design exercise, those prompts have been leaked online over the years. There's so many of them online. I'm pretty sure other companies must do that too. That's a very easy thing to do, right? Like just go online and look for prompts to do UX design exercise, work on them, find a mentor who can help you and I know Rethinking UX is doing that. Talk to your mentor, show them your work, and just learn by doing. That's one of the great ways to learn. And of course, read about it. There's so many Medium articles on it. So much education out there right now, really, about UX that you can start anywhere. But the best way to learn is by doing, but not just doing without any focus. It has to be focused practice, right? So you have to do something, but then really analyze it, see what's good, see what's not working, work on the parts that are not working. And that's how you build a portfolio. Because it's a chicken and egg problem. How do you get clients if you have no clients? So what you do is you do the work yourself and build that portfolio. I've hired many people over the last 8 years at Google who don't have real world experience and only have hypothetical projects, especially as only as junior designers, of course. But that's totally fine. You just need to have something in your portfolio.
Yep. There are multiple questions, but in the interest of time, we'll move so that we can be more humane and ask one-on-one questions. So, product design evolution in next 2 years. I wanted to have 5, but I reduced it to 2. So,
I am really bad at prediction. I also don't like predicting, but I can tell you what my hope is. My hope is that product design, so it's definitely reaching a point where more and more people know and understand what product design is. And we have to do lesser convincing of stakeholders that it's important and it's impactful. So my hope is that that's just off the table. My hope is no one is asking for a seat at the table in 2 years. And then my other hope is that we can really understand that we have lasting impact of the work that we do. And I learned this very well when I was learning industrial design, that if you design a bad product, a physical product, people could literally get injured, right? Like if they could, from something like getting a paper cut to actually like death could happen if something is not designed well, like a piece of furniture, right? I know it's an extreme, but so there was this whole idea of being very, very thoughtful in what you're designing and how does that impact people. And I think product design is moving so fast that we haven't been doing that. So that's really my hope, that as we think about scaling and like doing all of that, we're also thinking about what are the it's like you think of the happy path in design. Like what is the happy path for the user? Let's also think about the troll path. What is the troll path? If someone really wanted to misuse our design, how could they misuse our design? So one of the examples that comes up very often is that some payment apps, like person-to-person payment apps, didn't have a block feature because maybe the product manager and the designer thought, why would you want to block someone who's trying to pay you? Take the payment, right? But then we have heard stories of ex-boyfriends using it to abuse women and just like sending them messages on the payment app because that is the one place where she cannot block them and harassing them there. So that is the troll path. So that's what my hope is, that more people are thinking holistically about the troll path, because there are a lot of groups overall worldwide and there are different groups, but there are minorities who get harassed out in the world. Let's make sure that our products are not helping with that.
Sure. So because I did saw those screens, but I never imagined this case, because unless until you are into building a product and you have connected with someone, because you rightly said every consumer has to be thought through, and like this is like one of the case, because it always says message now and there is a pay one, but like there is like nothing to block. So I think it's quite rightly mentioned by you. Critical changes that designers and product folks must take to face future effectively.
I think we all have to be way more open to learning new things. And this is also very top of mind right now because of everything that's happening in the US with, our Black communities being under attack. Well, it's not right now. That's been happening forever. It's just highlighted right now. There is also a lot of stuff that happened in India a few months ago, right? Like with everything that was going on with the Citizenship Act or whatnot. I think what we can do is be informed about that, right? So if you're a man, be informed about what are the struggles that a woman might face that you have no idea about, so that you don't design a product where a woman cannot block someone. Going full circle. If you are wealthy, be informed about what it's like to not have that privilege. If you are an upper caste, because that's obviously still a thing, be informed about what are the privileges that you have that someone else might not have had. So just being informed about our own privileges, I think that's a big change that we need to pay. Because listen, we talk a big game about empathy, right? All of us talk about empathy as designers. How will you have empathy if you don't know the other person's point of view? And there was a question about how will you be informed? There's a lot of like books that you can read that are specifically from authors belonging to that community. Also, Twitter has been a really big source of information for me, just from hearing people directly. You can take a UX approach to this, right? Like just talk to those people. Just talk to those people that you're trying to learn about and learn from their struggles. Secondly, hire those people. Like that's why we need women in these positions again, so that women can say, no, actually, there's a reason why we need a blocking. Like everyone here has faced sexual harassment, and I can say that with 100% confidence, right? So just have women in the room when you're making those decisions. So that's another way to stay informed, just spending time with those people.
Yep, I had multiple questions on this, but I'll put on hold because I can see 36 questions over there.
Yeah.
Aastha's contribution towards community. Tell us more about your upcoming book and more. Because I saw in one of the tweets I have subscribed, so I just wanted to know more.
Yes, thank you so much for subscribing. So I'm writing a book. I'm laughing because it's ridiculous to me that I'm doing this. I'm not really a writer. I don't think of myself as a writer. So there are a lot of leadership philosophies that I completely believe in. And you know how it's that whole thing of the fish cannot see the water that it swims in? I always thought all these philosophies were stuff that everyone believed in. It's like the curse of knowledge. And I thought, oh, this would be like common sense, right? But then I started writing blog posts about it, and I started getting a lot of feedback from people saying that it was so helpful for them. So that's when I realized that, of course, just like some skills come easily to me, some skills don't come easily to me. Maybe I have some skills that are not coming easily to some other people and other managers, right? Or maybe they are, but it's just a different point of view. It's not even about not having the skills or having the skills. So I am writing a book. I still don't have confidence to say that, but I'm saying it anyway. I'm writing a book about what does it mean to manage or lead with heart. And I know that's very open, but really it comes to like, how do you really love your team and love the people? And I have no problems using that word, which typically doesn't fit in a corporate culture, but how do you manage and lead with a lot of heart and a lot of love? And actually, like, what does that mean across the different stages of management, like hiring, growing someone, like all of that, right? So that's one. I don't know if that's contribution to community. That's basically me just getting all these ideas in my head and my practice and putting them down as a book. And then, the other things, all you need is love. I totally agree. The other things that I do, so many people have helped me. So many people have mentored me, given me a chance, opened doors for me. I just want to make sure that I'm doing the same. So I do one-on-one mentorship sessions on Thursdays, and there's a link somewhere on my Twitter for people to sign up for that. And then I try to do as many of these things as possible, because like I said, I've learned so much from so many other people who have opened doors for me. So I want to continue to do the same.
Any time frame that we can see that book out?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so my goal is 18 months from now.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, no worries, because the kind of emotions that you expressed, I think the desire has gone many-fold up to read that book, because I'm sure the letters will come from heart and not from mind. So keep us posted. Even if it's 18 months from now, I think we'll be looking for after that book.
Yes, I am actually going to send the table of contents outline to whoever is subscribed. So
Sure.
you can see that soon.
Yep. I'll be waiting for those
Thank you.
line items. One practical advice you would give to someone who wants to venture into product design, and this is the last one for you.
Okay, I think it's what I said earlier. You have to do the work. There's no shortcut. You cannot wait till you know to do the work. Like, you learn by doing. So just to find design prompts online, and don't just look at what other people did. Actually do the project yourself, and then go to someone to get their advice on how to make it better, and just keep doing that till you feel like you have something good that you can put in your portfolio, because building a portfolio is the most important thing. Honestly, I don't even look at resumes really when I'm hiring. It's very, very rare that I look at that. Maybe only to gauge how much experience they have and how I should evaluate their work. But otherwise, it's all about the portfolio.
Yep. So what I did is I went through all 90 questions that has come, and it took me 3 hours to go through them because I wanted to have everything over there. There were questions like how to get into Google, how to crack interviews at Google, and I think you have answered all of them. If everyone can like relate to most of the items that is there, and if they were ready with pen and paper, they would have like noted down most of the items.
Thank you so much, everyone. This was so great. I'm so thankful to everyone that dialed in.
Thanks, Aastha. Thanks a lot.